Mm-hmm. I got that on there too, yeah. So it's like it just froze on me. Hello. It started out good. And it stopped. I will see it in a second. Was it cold? Boy, it's like it's cold out there.
It's time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
They'd have to probably look at some type of buy concept or something for a couple teams. Obviously shorten the time, maybe do away with the championship games. I don't really know what the exact formula is. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it, but I kind of like what we have.
Last year, you saw for the first time two good players from two good programs chose not to play in their bowl game because of their future. If we go to 8 teams, I'm sure it won't be long after that you all want to be talking about 16. And I don't care if we have 68 teams in it, we'll still have a 2-hour show on who shouldn't have gotten in it, just like they do in basketball.
Well, he's exactly right. You keep adding teams to the playoffs, and whoever is left out is still going to complain because they will think they should have been in the 8 or the 16 or the 68, as Saban said. There'll be no there's no absolute solution to make everybody happy. I think the 4 works very nicely right now because once you get into 5, 6, 7, you're starting to get into teams that have multiple losses, and you're going to squeeze teams in that wouldn't belong if it was still a 4. And at least you're getting the cream of the crop, I think, when we're dealing with the 4 teams right now.
And I think to Corn, and this won't play well in Alabama, but I think there's actually a significant drop off once you get past number 3. I really do. Because I don't think that Alabama team is necessarily as good as they've been in the past. And once you're getting down to that level, it's like, what do you want to do? And I'm someone who's a Johnny-come-lately when it comes to liking the 4 versus 8 or whatever amalgamation you want to put in there. In my mind, this is the best. And it keeps the intrigue and it keeps the consternation, which is the one thing that if you ask the people who are in charge of college football and who are in charge of trying to legislate college football, again, it's not necessarily a one person, it's a bunch of people, they like having all this arguing and all this politicking because that's what keeps the intrigue on the sport.
And, to argue the other side, I think probably it does. If you go to 8, and I don't see a maximum past 8 in my opinion, is you get the conference champions and maybe some wild cards, and you allow for some adversity to happen, because part of what Alabama is when they didn't look like the football team was the injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and it gives you a chance to recover and be in the championship fold. And if you get healthy during that time, then of course now you look like a better team because you've overcome that adversity.
And if Ohio State is really mad, don't lose to Iowa.
By 30.
Just don't lose to them at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can take a loss. It's been proven, of course. You can take a loss in the season if it happens at the right time. Clemson continues to live right because the last 2 years when they've taken their loss, it's come at an opportune time in that they weren't damaged very much at all, and they were still in position if they won out to be in the 4, and that has happened for them 2 years in a row.
They had a get-out-of-jail-free card with the Kelly Bryant injury, and they had a situation where, and correct me if I'm wrong, but on that Pittsburgh weekend that they lost last year, wasn't that a weekend where like a lot of teams lost? And,
yes.
And there was basically carnage throughout all of college football, so it almost kind of got lost. I mean, trust me, it was a big enough deal. But as far as nationally, a lot of the people around college football didn't necessarily punish them as much as they really could have because of what else happened that week.
All right, welcome into Sports Talk on a Friday night. It's been a long, busy week down here at the beach and other parts of the states. The weather has been pretty rotten here, as it has been around the state today. Going to clean up a little bit tomorrow, I think. Temperature is going to climb into the upper 40s, low 50s, maybe a little rain in the morning, hoping the rain will get out of the way for our 12:30 kickoff for the annual Touchstone Energy North-South All-Star Game at Doug Shaw Memorial Stadium. Tonight, we're at the Landmark Resort. It's the annual South Carolina Football Coaches Association Hall of Fame induction ceremonies. And if you're a fan of the triple option, the wishbone, you're going to love some of the coaches who are going in tonight. They made a living off of this. Some are still making a living off of it, like Louis Lineberger, who is still coaching at Johnsonville. Jewel McLaurin, who won so many championships, primarily at Lakeview. A couple of guys that have lived off the triple option over the years. Jackie Hayes is going in. He's still coaching and still winning. Coach David Berry from Blackville Hilda still at it, and he's going into the Hall of Fame. J.W. Ingram will be recognized tonight as a Hall of Famer. Benny McMurray, who not only was an outstanding football coach, also an outstanding baseball coach for many, many years. He is headed into the Hall of Fame. Jim Ringer, one of the outstanding coaches of his day, 35 years in coaching in the state of South Carolina. He'll be going in. And Phil Strickland, who is still coaching, winning, and competing for championships, he too is going into the Hall of Fame tonight. We'll try to grab one or two of them here before the ceremonies get underway so you can hear from them. Also coverage tonight of Clemson and the Tigers in Alabama getting ready for one another. It's still a pretty good ways down the road, but we have some interviews with Clemson folks for you tonight. Also, Clemson basketball coach Brad Brownell, the Tigers playing tomorrow against Sanford at Littlejohn Coliseum. USC at home against Coastal Carolina tomorrow at noon. So you better turn out for that, or Big Daddy's going to be mad at you once again.
I'll be there. I don't know how many others will join me. You know, it's Army Navy Day tomorrow, Corn. I'm wearing supporting the Army here today, just because, you know.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. Do you think that they're going to be able to show out again? As again, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. It's not that the tickets haven't been bought. It's just people aren't necessarily enthralled with the slate he has put together.
I gotta believe that he's heard from a coach or a recruit that asked him about the crowds, and that's what ticked him off. I don't think he just came out and said it. I think he's been getting some feedback from someone.
Well, this is not a new thing for him.
Yes.
Not a new thing.
Well, you talk about the slate, and I mean, what do people want him to do? Play Duke one night, North Carolina the next night, UCLA the next night? I mean, he's got a good mix. Coaches scheduled to win. They schedule based on the kind of team that they have.
Right.
When you have a better team, you play better teams. When you are not as good, maybe you take a step back a little bit with your scheduling outside of your league, because you know when you get to league play, it's going to be really, really tough. I mean, they've got Clemson coming up in about a week or so. They've played Temple. I mean, the home slate so far has not been, from a national perspective, overly attractive. But UMass is a good basketball team. Wyoming historically has been a pretty good basketball team. Coastal Carolina is an in-state rival that you don't want to lose to. And former Gamecock Jamie Shaw, now a senior at Coastal, will be coming home to face the Gamecocks. And, of course, Cliff Ellis. I mean, there's reasons, but people will find reasons not to go. A, the weather. B, it's at noon. C, they'd rather listen to Mike Morgan on television than go see it in person. I mean, you can come up with all kind of reasons.
Massachusetts, Ken Palm 154. They're 4-5. I wouldn't necessarily go as to call them
I'm not
good.
saying they're playing a bunch of Final Four teams, but they're not playing. You know, they're not playing Prairie View A&M and people like that. I mean, at least they're playing, you know, respectable Division I programs that have had success over the years.
Yeah,
and of course, Loyola. Of course, I was saying Loyola played Florida at Florida and beat them. And let's face it,
Loyola's not a bad program.
Let's face it, guys. North Carolina and Duke is not coming down here because they're not going to give South Carolina any juice. Which is why South Carolina had to get a home and home matchup for Virginia to get an ACC team that will return the game.
It's a problem every year. And I think that there's just too many games, guys. There really is. I just think there's just too many games early and too many of these things that count. And maybe you just go and start the conference season sooner, or just put it back towards where you're only playing in December, not even playing in November.
And I think that's a good idea. Move the conference slate up earlier. Start the season later. But you know what they're doing? They're starting the season earlier and pushing the conference slate back later. You know, the stuff we think is smart, they think is stupid, and they go the other direction. And, you know, maybe one day, if South Carolina's good enough, they'll play a bunch of those made-for-TV marquee games. But right now, even though they made the Final Four, they're still not catching the attention of the major basketball people. Back in a moment.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
And we're back at Sports Talk. We continue our coverage of Touchstone Energy North-South Week from the beach. Reminder, the game is coming up tomorrow. We'll talk more about that in a little bit, but you can still get your tickets online or just wait and get them at the gate tomorrow. Come on out and watch some of the best high school football players in South Carolina. They've been working hard, and it's been interrupted some by the weather. Maybe they didn't get in all the work that they ordinarily would, but they have put in the work this week, no doubt about it, to get ready. Tickets are only $20. You can buy them online still at touchstoneenergybowl.com, or, of course, you can purchase them at the gate. We've made our way over to the Landmark Resort for tonight's induction ceremonies for the newest class for the South Carolina High School Football Coaches Association. Relatively new function for the organization, the Hall of Fame. And one of those going in tonight, Jewel McLaurin, who grew up in Dillon, outstanding player at Dillon, went to Clemson, outstanding player at Clemson, and then coached many years at Lakeview, winning 259 games and 4 state championships, and he has stopped by for a moment. Congratulations to you, sir.
Thank you, Phil.
Always great to see homeboys from the PD do well.
Yeah, we got a group around there.
Absolutely. And you and Jackie Hayes going into the same class, is that a little special for you since you're a Dillon native and he's the coach of Dillon?
That's special. We had many tough games with Jackie at Lakeview, and I remember when he played at Dillon when I was coaching.
Sure, sure. What do you remember best about your coaching career?
Well, we just had a good group that worked hard and played hard, and we had outstanding assistants, and we were fairly successful. We kept our job. I was there for 40 years at Lakeview.
Yeah, yeah. The wishbone was your preferred offensive attack. Was that by just because you loved it, or just because out of necessity with the limited number of players you had, that was the best offense?
Well, it kind of fit our personnel better. Now, we'd get out of the wishbone some and go to the eye some, and once in a while we might get in the spread, but that was our main offense.
You know, being from Latta, a rival of Lakeview all these years, we often wondered where, year after year, even now, where does Lakeview find the football players every year?
I don't know. I'm just glad they kept coming. You know, we'd lose them and seem like somebody would step up the next year, and seemed like we just had some tough players over the years. They were real physical. Maybe sometimes they weren't skilled, but they were physical, and then once in a while you'd have some skilled teams passing and receiving, but our main characteristic was our toughness.
Yeah, you didn't think much of the pass, did you?
Well, if we passed when we had passing.
Yeah,
We've had some quarterbacks throw for 20 touchdowns and all, but that wasn't the case every year now. Depends on what you had.
Who would you call your best player? Can you think of one?
There'd be so many, I hate to be calling them, but we had a bunch of outstanding players.
Yeah. Maybe did you coach a linebacker that went to Clemson?
Yeah, Anthony. He was an outstanding. He was a great player for us, and we had a lot of great players. We coached Timmy Renfro, who is Hunter's son at Clemson.
Yeah.
He was an outstanding player.
Yeah. And
we had, Tootie Boot, the running back. He was a great player for us. Tootie Boot Jones. Burnell Jones. I think he had close to a state record for touchdowns. He could fly.
Tootie Boot Jones. What does it mean to you now to be going into the Hall of Fame and looking back on your career and everything that you put into high school football? What does it mean for you to receive this award tonight?
Well, I'm just kind of a representative for Lakeview. I'm representing all those great assistants we had and players and fans. And, I wish that they all could be here getting the award too, but only one person can. And I'm just representing them.
Well, you did a great job, and we congratulate you. It's been nice knowing you over these decades, and continued good health and good luck to you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Phil.
Coach Jewel McLaurin from Lakeview, 259 and 68, 4 state championships, 10 lower state championships, 8 lower state titles, 18 region titles. And, when you're a coach and AD guys at a school like Lakeview that size, you pretty much do everything. You coach them, you clean up after them, you line the fields, you cut the grass. That's what coaches of that ilk had to do and still do today in those small settings. And I've had the good fortune of knowing Coach McLaurin both as a coach and personally for many, many years. And he's a fine, fine person, and we congratulate him.
Certainly so. It's I tell you what, the event that you are at, you got a lot of guys who've dedicated a lot of their life to that profession, and coaching in high school is still the last of the selfless acts, because not everybody ends up making it to the next level. A lot of guys will be in high school for a while, and it really is a symbol of service, if you will.
Well, you're exactly right. You're exactly right, and I like to say, and we've all gone through coaches before as kids and dealt with coaches, and in particular, football coaches, I think are the finest group of men in general that I know. Maybe if I had been in the service in the Army or something, maybe my generals would be in that group. But
speak for your own coaches on that one.
Well, I'm talking about as a group, because I know what they do for kids and that their door is always open. Did you have bad coaches?
I didn't. I had some good coaches, and I had a couple that I wouldn't care to see.
Try to rub you the wrong way.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, don't be mad because they sat you on the bench, okay? That's not their fault. That's up to you. But anyway, what I'm saying is the things that they do, the time that they give, and in high school football today, I mean, you've got some of your coaches who make really good money at the big schools, but by and large, these guys don't make a ton of money, and they give up so much of their additional time and effort and family time to help out their kids. That's why I salute them.
Well, in these small towns, Corn, coaches wake up one morning and they look in the huddle and they're looking at the sons of fathers they coached.
Well, yeah, he mentioned he coached Tim Renfro, who is Hunter Renfro's dad. So that goes back a long, and then Tim Renfro himself went on to become an excellent football coach and athletic director himself. So, but the connection between, Jewel was at Dillon and was a tremendous player at Dillon and went to Clemson. Gosh, this would have been back in the 60s, I believe. And
you still have his recruiting file on, I'm sure.
Connection between Dillon and Lakeview, of course, in the same county, and now Dillon actually oversees Lakeview. A lot of strong connections between those two programs. So enjoyed having him with us, and wish him the best. All right, let's see. Let's go to Glenn in North Charleston very quickly. See if Glenn has taken the Gamecocks offensive coordinator's job yet. Glenn, welcome to Sports Talk.
I'm glad to take that position. I would love it.
It's yours. It's yours. We are announcing tonight, Glenn in North Charleston is the Gamecocks' new offensive coordinator. What kind of offense do you want to run?
I would take a deception type offense. I would love to do trick plays, which I would never see the Gamecocks even attempt to do, like trick plays to get the defense distracted and kind of look your eyes one way or like look your eyes the other way. That way you keep the defense.
Glenn, you got to execute the regular plays before you can run the trick plays, bro.
I don't know about that because if the regular plays don't work, you're going to have to pull up with something, So I'd do a trick play. I'm not ashamed to do it. But anyway, I was wondering, in the Army-Navy game, I was hoping there would be snow because that would be a fun game to watch at 3 o'clock tomorrow.
I agree.
It was pretty cold for last year's game in Baltimore. I don't think we had snow necessarily, but we had some precipitation, and it is the forecast still for Philly on Saturday is for snow, at least in the afternoon. So you could get your wish.
And Army broke a 15-game losing streak in that series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was so much fun.
Thanks for the call, Glenn. The thing I like about that game, may have said this the other night.
Yeah.
The thing I like about that game is the post game.
Yeah.
Just after those two teams go out there and knock each other around, the way that the loser goes first with the alma mater and the winner goes over and stands respectfully while that alma mater is played, then they go to the other side of the stadium. That to me is the essence of what all of this has been about over all these years, and that's one of the few places where it's remembered.
Yeah, I got to do Super Bowl and Army-Navy both last year. I had more fun with the Army-Navy post game than the entire Super Bowl. It was awesome.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network on a Friday night. Phil Kornblut in Myrtle Beach at the Landmark Resort. Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes, back in our downtown Columbia studios. We're at the South Carolina High School Football Coaches Association induction ceremonies for the class of Hall of Famers. And we welcome to our Sports Talk microphones another one of the Hall of Famers, Coach Benny McMurray. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you very much. We're quite humbled and honored.
Well deserved. 420 wins in baseball in 5 state championships. In football, 219 wins and 3 state championships. How did your football coaching skills cross over, or vice versa? Could you use some of the same tactics in both sports?
Yes, and in the smaller schools, most of the players did both. So it was just a transition because football season, we were fortunate enough to go to the playoffs, and I kept them late from the basketball coach. We'd finish on the weekend, and Tuesday night they'd practice Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, be on the basketball court Tuesday night. And then come springtime from baseball, the basketball team went deep in the playoffs, so I would have them 1 or 2 days. So it was a good carryover. Kids, they were pretty good.
Louisville, when you were there, I mean, really, what a dynamic run you guys had, and what a run of talent that you had, in particular on the football side.
We were very fortunate. A small school of that caliber to put out the type of athletes we had. 3 in the NFL, a whole gob that went to college, and like you said, 3 state championships and 4 runner-ups, and just a lot of good kids, hard-working kids.
Did you have a favorite
Player?
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah. One didn't stand out to you, like, maybe Wesley McFadden or one of those types?
Wesley was there my first year. He was under Moose. I guess the most prominent ones from my regime would be Sheldon Brown, Mike Barber, William Strong. Those 3 made it to the NFL, and of course Sheldon did the longest. Yeah, but there were some good ones.
All great players. And I got to tell this story now. You are now retired from coaching football.
Yes.
And you are a softball umpire on the collegiate level.
Yes.
How are you enjoying that?
It gives you a different perspective. But I've been an umpire all my life because I coached football, umpired basketball, and coached baseball in the spring. So I've been calling high school basketball 35 plus years, high school and college. So, it wasn't that big of a transition.
Yeah, yeah. And you're doing pretty high level college softball now, D1 softball leagues.
Yes, some lower level D1, D2s, D3s, 2 codes. I still dabble with the high school. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the missus is also a softball umpire? Yes.
Of some renown, right?
My wife, Monique, is NCAA 2A Division I umpire. She's very, very good, may I add. And she did the Division II National Championship game in Salem, Virginia last year.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. Is it when those girls bring it, I mean, they can really, bring it, 65, 70 miles an hour off the mound?
It's been said it's correlated to like 80, 90 miles an hour on the baseball because you're only, 43 feet.
Yeah.
And trust me, the first time I got behind the plate, I blinked. Where did the ball go? It got there quick.
What's the toughest call for you as a softball umpire?
No, it's the same. Ball's a ball, strike's a strike, out's a out, safe's a safe. It's the same. Yeah. I think one of the things that I had to overcome was when these are girls, they can't make the plays that the guys made, and I was totally wrong.
Yeah. Because
these girls nowadays are phenomenal athletes. They make diving catches that you see guys make. They play just as hard or harder.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Fans get on you?
Oh yeah, fans are fans. Yeah, that don't change.
I mean, is it worse as an umpire or worse as a coach hearing from the fans? Where are they toughest?
Depends where you're on home and on the road. As a coach.
What was the worst visiting venue? What fans were on you the hardest as a visiting coach?
I won't say the fans, but places that were just tough to play. Jonesville, Whitmire.
Yeah. Whitmire.
Yeah, back in the day with Jim Rich. Yeah. Oh God, it was tough to play there.
Yeah.
Beaufort, Northwestern, Rock Hill, Spartanburg, Gavin. Everybody you play, it's a tough place to play.
Yeah.
And it was a challenge to get your kids prepared every week, and they had to bring their A game because in that region, you bring A game, you come up short.
That's right. That's some tough football up there. We congratulate you on a great career. I appreciate you stopping by and visiting with us, and good luck.
Thank you so much.
We'll look for you on those softball diamonds.
All right.
In the springs to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good seeing you.
Okay.
Coach Benny McMurray going into the Hall of Fame tonight here in Myrtle Beach, and great story about him continuing his athletic endeavors behind home plate in softball. That's I did not realize he was doing that, and it's a family thing because the wife is doing it too, guys. And I guess the family that umps together stays together.
You know, I did softball at Missouri. Now those again, they bring it, man. It might say 60 to 70 miles an hour on the mile per hour radar gun, but it comes in from shorter distance, and it's just as hard to hit.
Do you think you could hit
No.
at the Division I
No.
level? Could you hit
No.
a softball pitched by a quality pitcher?
One of Missouri's all-time winningest pitchers, Chelsea Thomas, used to do it every year. She would do it wasn't like a clinic, but like she used to face all the media guys, and she would strike them all out, every single one of them.
Mm-hmm. No hope,
none.
I bet you she couldn't strike out Teddy Hefner.
She would make Teddy Hefner look like Wee Willie Keeler.
You don't.
Man.
You don't know Teddy Hefner, the baseball player. You only know Teddy Hefner, the award-winning sports talk host, Morning Drive in Columbia.
Right.
You don't know Teddy Hefner, the baseball player.
Again, I'd give him no shot.
She used that rise ball, didn't she?
Yeah, yeah.
That movement.
No. Here's the thing. She'll start you off with the rise ball, and then she'll come with a drop, and then she'll dance you with a changeup. Well, you don't know what's coming because your swing is basically choked up for the rise ball. She'll come with a changeup that you would be able to hit if you knew it was coming, but you don't know it's coming.
Yeah, because my niece used to tell me about that because she used to be a catcher in high school at Richland Northeast Corn, and her hands looked a little bit like they were beat up after a ball game.
Leather gloves after being in the mitts. All right, thanks to Coach for coming by. 800-956-7266. If you want to jump on board the program here tonight on Sports Talk, we're going to hear more from Dabo Sweeney and Nick Saban as they opine about the playoff and the setup for the playoff as it is now. And we'll hear from the Tigers' Austin Bryant, a big defensive end, looking forward at another shot at Alabama. And Clemson basketball coach Brad Brownell previewing the Tigers' game coming up tomorrow against Sanford. Reminder now, we've got the North-South game, the Touchstone Energy Bowl, tomorrow for you. Our airtime will be at noon. The kickoff will be at 12:30. At halftime, we'll have the announcement live as part of our broadcast of Mr. Football in South Carolina. Want to thank our affiliates who have signed up to be with us tomorrow. Those include in Columbia, WQXL, AM and FM. That's 100.7 FM, 1470 AM. Good friends up in the Rock Hill, Lancaster area, WRHM FM. That's 107.1 FM. And here in the Myrtle Beach, Conway area on FM, 101.9 FM, and on AM, 1050 AM, that's WHSC, AM and FM. Over in Newberry, Jimmy Coggins joining us tomorrow at WKDK AM, 1240 in Newberry. Good to have him. Chris Johnson in Camden will be with us as well, WPUB FM, 102.7 FM. And in a tape delay basis, we'll have our stations in Florence, Lamar, and Kingstree with us. They have another program that they have to carry at the time we're on the air. So they'll join us in a tape delay basis, WOLH in Florence, WSIM in Lamar, WDKD in Kingstree. Plus, we'll have, of course, a stream for you, an audio stream on our website, SportsTalkSC.com, which reminds me to tell you we've gotten some complaints from people who go to our website to look at our YouTube video. Our IT people have made some security adjustments on our website. So the reason the picture is not appearing, you have to go into your browser and click on that little box that says load unsafe scripts, and that will load that box for you on your page. Or just go to our YouTube channel and watch it there. Back in a moment.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
And we're glad you're listening to us all across the state of South Carolina each and every night here on Sports Talk. Really do appreciate you doing that. We're brought to you by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. Also want to remind you from the Department of Agriculture, the state's finest Christmas trees are still on sale throughout the states at your local South Carolina Department of Agriculture Farmers Market. Celebrate the holidays, make your home beautiful, and support our farmers today. Trees are available until Christmas Eve. Will, have you gotten your tree yet from the farmers market?
I've not gotten my tree from the farmers market yet, Corn.
Well, I suggest you do. Pro, I know you've got your tree. You're usually one of the first ones to have this tree up.
Oh, no, I'm one of the last ones to have a tree up.
You can't leave it in your house too long now. It's a fire hazard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jimbo Fisher explained the tree story came out before he resigned at Florida State. It was not a big deal. Everybody thought that was a sign he was leaving. He said, actually, no, they have, you know, of course, being well paid like he is, he can afford to have somebody come in and put up his Christmas tree. But apparently the tree was broken. And so he just told the guy to get rid of it. And the guy threw it out in front of the house with the garbage to be picked up. That wasn't a sign that he was leaving, even though he did leave, you know, a few days later.
That's a convenient excuse.
Do it like Dawn Staley does. Doesn't Dawn Staley keep her Christmas tree up 365 a year? I think she told us that once.
I've never been to her house, so I really couldn't testify to that.
I'm going to try her favorite chicken and waffle restaurant this weekend, though. That Kiki's.
Oh, good. I'm happy for you.
I'm trying that. While you're on the beach, I'll be trying.
Yeah. I wish I was on the beach. Now, we were talking earlier, we were having a conversation about the playoffs and should it stay at 4? Should it increase to 8? Should it go to 16? Blah, 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 blah. And will the Saban and Sweeney both kind of got into it, not with each other, but offered up some opinions, did they not, this week in Atlanta?
They definitely did, and it's no shock that any of the coaches who were surveyed of the college football semifinalists, none of them have a problem with the way it is right now.
Well, I think somebody besides us who is in a better position to make a decision of what do you want to accomplish in college football. I think a few years ago, going to a bowl game was a unique thing in college football because it rewarded a lot of players who participated, had good seasons, had an opportunity to go to a bowl game. Their fans could enjoy a bowl game. And then, you know, we sort of started the 2-team deal, and now it's a 4-team deal. And now all the focus and emphasis is on the playoffs. And teams that go to bowl games, the bowl games really don't coexist very well with the playoffs relative to importance, how much attention they get, but yet they are important to positive self-gratification for a lot of players, a lot of coaches, a lot of fans who have a good season. It's a very positive reinforcer. So expanding the playoffs, I would minimize that to a larger degree in terms of the importance of bowl games and the importance of players playing in bowl games. I mean, last year you saw for the first time two good players from two programs chose not to play in their bowl game of their future. So I think there's some issues that go along with the current system. And, you know, if we go to 8 teams, I'm sure it won't be long after that you all want to be talking about 16. And I don't care if we have 68 teams in it, we'll still have a 2-hour show on who shouldn't have gotten in it, just like they do in basketball.
Yeah.
So,
and that's to me, that's what we have. We have in all these other sports. We got the NBA, we got the NFL. You know, I think that's one of the things that makes college football so unique. We've got 130 teams or whatever in Division I. And, you know, it's a very unique setup in sport. And, yeah, there's a lot of issues. And now all of a sudden you got, if you know you're in the playoffs, certain games become very irrelevant. Now all of a sudden you don't play certain players because you know you're in. You don't want to get a guy hurt. So now it's just a whole. There's a lot of unintended consequences that creep in, just like you see in all the other sports. I mean, I love the NBA, but I don't ever watch it till the playoffs. Just doesn't matter. But in our sport, it still matters. I mean, it matters. It matters what you do in September. It matters what you do in October. It matters what you do in November. But you know what? It's nothing wrong with going 9-3, 8-4. Maybe that's just the best you were that year. And now you got a chance to go play a really good bowl game somewhere and grow your team and get better and develop some guys for the spring. And that's kind of what I grew up in. So I'm kind of traditional in that.
Here's the only unintended consequence with keeping it the way it is, and you saw a taste of it this year, Corn, is that the expectations for these fan bases and athletic directors has become unreasonable. They want to compete for the playoff every year, and that is just not a reasonable expectation.
Exactly right. I mean, Dabo is right. Some years 9 wins is a good year, but I'm just waiting, and eventually Clemson's going to have a 9-win year where that's the best they can be. How are their people going to accept it? They'll probably accept it 1 year and say, okay, that was our 1-year hiccup. We better be back in the playoffs next year.
That's stupid. That's a stupid standard to set. I mean, I know that they'll all be about best as a standard, but there's only 4 out of 129 get in, man, and it's very, very difficult. And you could argue that maybe every year only 10 a year have a legit real shot to make it to the playoffs.
And sometimes, you could have the best talent in the world, and that crazy-shaped ball takes some strange bounces that can cost you some games that had nothing to do with execution or talent.
And like Nick Saban said earlier in that diatribe, the bowls have completely been devalued just by the addition of 2 games. Like they used to have, obviously, the 1 game with the BCS. You would still have some allure and an aura around the BCS bowls. Now, anything that's not the New Year's Six or the college football playoff, it's irrelevant almost.
Well, it's all that's part of it. The bowls have also been devalued because there's so many of them. Also. And ESPN has just created bowl games for television purposes. And, bowl games are the stadiums are half empty in a lot of them, especially the early ones. But, for a team that goes to a bowl game and wins a bowl game, what happens? The coach gets doused with the Gatorade shower. The players hold up their fingers. We're number 1. And they all feel like winners. They kind of all feel like they've won the national championship if they win that bowl game.
It's a good thing to win your last game of the year. Yeah.
That used to be, I mean, listen, the bowl game used to be the gratification on a good season for a good team to go win their bowl game. And even if you didn't factor into the national championship that was voted on back then by the coaches or the writers, you had an 8 or 9 win season. You won your bowl game, man, you were held in high esteem. Today, look at South Carolina. I mean, they're 8-4. People should be really very, very pleased with what South Carolina did on the grand scale. But the fact that they got hammered by Clemson takes a little bit of the luster off of it. But still, to be 8-4, going to a New Year's Day bowl game, a chance to win 9 games, that is something to really feel good about. But I'm sure in today's atmosphere, I don't think the fans feel as good about it as they should.
I think fans, because of Twitter and other social media, love to complain. But that is why I tell people to put these first 2 seasons of Will Muschamp's coaching regime in South Carolina in a time capsule. Look what talent he had. Look what injuries he overcame. And this may turn out to be 2 of his best coaching jobs in his tenure in South Carolina just because of the circumstance.
What did you do?
I turned the wrong mic down there. I didn't mean to cough right on top of your comments there, bro.
The other thing, too, I'm going to sound like Muschamp when I say this, but the most important thing for South Carolina in this bowl season, those 15 practices, because you need to be able to see what this offense is going to look like next year. It cannot look like it did this year, and you also have to figure out who's replacing the key players you're going to miss on defense.
But the guy running the offense is a guy who's been with you. I mean, the new guy's not here. The offense is going to look like it's looked all season, just going to have a different guy calling the plays. And you hope that it's executed maybe at a higher level. Maybe you made a good point a while back. I mean, bowl game statistics are something that you should take with a grain of salt when you think about USC's offense in the bowl game.
Don't get aroused by the bowl game stats.
Oh, the old arousal thing.
2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Hey, let's don't forget, besides the Touchstone Energy North-South All-Star football game tomorrow here in Myrtle Beach, airtime noon, kickoff 12:30. Wofford is playing tomorrow, also at noon. The Terriers have made the trip up to North Dakota, and that is always fun to go up there and take on those Hosses. This is round 3 of the FCS playoffs. Wofford at 10-2, North Dakota State at 11-1. Kickoff in the Fargo Dome will be at noon. Second meeting between these teams. They played in 2012 with North Dakota State winning 14-7. Very, very good game. Now, if Wofford wins, they can host. You know, they got the Shrine Bowl at their stadium on Saturday of next week. But their game would be played on Friday.
Right.
And from what I'm told, if they win tomorrow, they could be that host team on Friday night if things work out.
That is a tough place to go play a football game, though. That Fargo Dome is no joke.
But, you know, now they're not the defending champ. We're looking at them right now. James Madison, the defending champ, on a 24-game winning streak.
Except they just got picked 6th. Or at least close to pick 6th. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Weber State starting out starting out really well against the Dukes of James Madison in Harrisonburg, Virginia.
And you know, the coach there was the coach at the Citadel for 2 years.
Yes,
correct.
Before moving to James Madison, he kind of got the Citadel rolling when he was there. Coach Houston, what a coach he is! Had it going at the Division II level at Lenore-Rhine like they'd never really experienced, especially in the running game. Comes to the Citadel in 2 years. Gets them to Southern Conference Championship level, goes to James Madison, wins a national championship in his first year, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he really comes in and gets things going in a hurry. Excellent football coach. Probably at this pace, he's going to be up at the FBS level before too long.
Definitely a rising star in the coaching ranks.
Indeed, indeed. All right, 800-956-7266 is our number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com, and on Twitter, we are at SportsTalkSC, at SportsTalkSC. Nothing really to sink your teeth into today regarding South Carolina and the OC job from anything that I've seen, heard, or read. I think that right now Muschamp is busy recruiting. He's got a recruiting weekend. Oh, let's do recruiting, and then we'll talk more about the OC thing in a minute.
Right.
Since I'm thinking about recruiting, I'll tell you a couple of things here. First of all, KJ Henry, the defensive end out of Clemens, North Carolina, announcing on ESPNU 420 on December 20th. And right now, talking to his coach, Adrian Snow, a lot of people are pegging him towards Clemson. And Coach Snow says, well, it may ultimately be that. But from talking with the kid and being involved, he says right now no decision has been made. And he is still pondering what he is going to do. Clemson, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia Tech. The primary 4, it looks like Alabama has sort of faded here for whatever reason. Now, Coach said that Georgia was trying to get in. Georgia had not had its in-home, and with the Shrine Bowl coming up this weekend, Henry's got to go there, and Georgia was trying to get in today, if not tomorrow, to see him before he went to Spartanburg for the Shrine Bowl. As for Clemson and USC, Will Muschamp and USC coaches were in at the school yesterday morning. That's where their meeting took place. They didn't go to the home, according to the coach. You know, Henry's father is a football coach, so he's not there. He's with Charlotte, and he's out recruiting. The mom was there, so they did everything at the school, and the coach sat in on the meeting. And he said the thing that Muschamp told Henry was opportunity. You got an opportunity pretty quick at South Carolina to step right in and play. And like the coach said, the other schools are a little bit more loaded at defensive end than South Carolina is. As for Dabo Swinney and his assistants, they were in on Wednesday night, and that also went well, according to Snow. And he said the talk was more about family and not so much about football. They just had a good time exchanging stories and things like that. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Henry has never stated publicly a favorite. Now, Channing Tindall last night received the Mr. Richland County Football Player of the Year. He told Lou Bezjak from thestate.com afterwards that, quote, "I'm about to commit pretty soon," end quote. Had visits from USC's Will Muschamp and Coleman Hutzler this week, Auburn linebackers coach and Spring Valley grad Travis Williams, Georgia inside linebackers coach Glenn Schumann. All were in. He did not say when he will decide or if he has a favorite. His only official visit thus far was to Auburn for the Iron Bowl. He was selected for the Shrine Bowl, but he'll sit out the game while resting a bruised shoulder. He plans to play in the Army All-American game, and he'll be here tomorrow because he is a finalist for Mr. Football in South Carolina. So he'll be here to see if he wins that. And we'll talk more about Mr. Football coming up in a few minutes. Defensive back Trey Dean of Hampton, Georgia, decommitted from Tennessee Thursday, the day after, in homes with USC's Travaris Robinson and with Kentucky. He'll visit Kentucky this weekend and Florida next weekend. He's going to sign on the 20th. He said likely he won't visit USC, though he's been there twice before. He said Kentucky and Florida are in the best position with him. He's also looking at Alabama, and so it does not look like USC is going to be much of a factor with him down the stretch. Now, Clemson gets his chance to impress offensive lineman Jackson Carman of Fairfield, Ohio this weekend. He'll make his official visit with the Tigers this weekend. In fact, he's already flown in to Clemson to begin his official visit to activities. He's been to Ohio State officially, and he's going to Southern Cal next weekend. His decision, December 20th, will come from those three. Ohio State and Southern Cal have had their in-home visits, and Clemson's Dabo Swinney is scheduled to visit next week, though Clemson recruiters were in to see him on Monday. USC offered 2019 defensive end Colby Wooden of Lawrenceville, Georgia. What else do I have for you here? Virginia Tech was scheduled for its in-home visit with Dorman offensive lineman Jordan McFadden last night. New Tennessee coach Jeremy Pruitt contacted defensive end Dorian Gerald Thursday night. Gerald, of course, a USC target, and he'll visit Louisville this weekend. Clemson target running back Jayshon Corbin of Rockledge, Florida, was offered by Virginia Tech. And as far as the official visits this weekend, USC's got several of its committed players coming in for official visits. The only non-committed target coming in is a big one for them, J.C. Horn, the defensive back out of Alpharetta, Georgia. That'll be important for USC. And we told you about Carman visiting Clemson. A few other official visits to note. Clemson target Cade Mays, scheduled for Notre Dame. Clemson, he's an offensive lineman. Clemson running back target Lynn J. Dixon for Louisville. USC defensive end target Jarrett Jackson also taking an official to Louisville this weekend. There you go with the recruiting for now. Now, if we have anything that pops up over the weekend, of course, we'll put it on our Twitter timeline with the hashtag ST Recruiting. You ever use that hashtag, Willie P?
I used it today when I talked about the kicker commitment that USC got with the graduate transfer that's coming their way.
Okay, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Hashtag ST Recruiting, and, of course, the website, SportsTalkSC.com.
And not necessarily a recruiting note, but DeCarrion Joyner posted on his Twitter earlier today that he has officially completed his Fort Dorchester coursework and is on track to start and enroll early at USC in January and be in there for spring practice. So all that is done for him, which is a good thing for the Gamecocks.
And the kicker that you mentioned, the grad transfer, is Shane Hines from Kent State, originally out of Clarkston, Michigan. He announced on Twitter he'll enroll at USC this summer. This season, he made a career-long 48-yarder at Louisville, had 15 field goals as a sophomore, including 6 from 40 or more yards, so apparently has a pretty strong leg. And so he'll have a chance to come in and compete with South Carolina, though the Gamecocks, Parker White has a good, strong leg if he can just become more consistent with it.
Yeah, I think that just gives you more evidence as to the fact that that position lacks a little stability in my mind.
He's the kickoff guy, no doubt. His just the accuracy. Just kick it in the end zone. You have to worry about the uprights when you kick off.
Well, if they get that solved, they'll be pretty good in special teams because the punter is excellent for South Carolina.
And the kick returner, too, is not bad either.
Yeah. Okay, we'll be right back.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
Back we are, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Big crowd out here tonight at the Landmark Resort in Myrtle Beach for the induction ceremony for the South Carolina High School Football Coaches Association Hall of Fame. Once again, to tell you who is going in: Jackie Hayes from Dillon, David Berry from Blackville Hilda, J.W. Ingram from Lexington High School, Lewis Lineberger, most recently at Johnsonville High School, had a lot of success at Hartsville High School as well, Jewel McLaurin from Lakeview, Benny McMurray from Louisville, Jim Ringer, who won 227 games at Aiken, Columbia, Conway, and Rock Hill, and Phil Strickland, who's still going strong now at Newberry. He's won 319 games and 5 state championships. Congratulations to all. They do a great job honoring these men for their careers here in the state of South Carolina. Any of them could be the offensive coordinator at South Carolina, I think, and do a heck of a job.
I don't know if you can run that wishbone at the SEC level, though, Corn.
That'd be tough.
That'd be a little bit.
That'd be tough.
A little bit.
So, anyway, you've heard a couple of more names pop up.
Yeah,
we're not spitballing here. Let's only talk about real possibilities.
No, I mean, this is a report that came out from Adam Rittenberg of ESPN. He said, hearing that Will Muschamp plans to talk to a few candidates and others under consideration, other than the names that we've talked about over the last couple of days, UCLA offensive coordinator and interim head coach Jed Fish, and Toledo's Brian Wright. Those are names we had not brought up previously. Obviously, the others we brought up, the Rhett Lashleys, and I think the offensive coordinator at UCF's name was bandied about a little bit, but the news that came across right before we went on the air is that Scott Frost is going to take his entire UCF coaching staff to Nebraska with him.
It must be some good money in Nebraska, because to leave Orlando, Florida for the Lincoln, Nebraska this time of year is very
well. Now they'll spend money on football now.
Yeah,
they'll spend money on football now.
I'm talking about weather-wise. I'm talking about climate-wise.
They'll spend some money on football now at Nebraska, especially for that guy. Especially for that, to get that guy, they will literally. I'm sure they gave him access to all the buried bodies and everything.
Well, the Husker Club donations just went up tenfold, in my opinion.
A lot of corn, sneaky lot of corn in Nebraska.
Yeah. Well, I think as far as this search goes, like any search, immediately people want to be the first ones now on Twitter to throw out names.
Right.
This guy. And as we've learned over the years, oftentimes it's not those first names you hear. It's the ones that you hear late are the ones who are actually real candidates and the ones that they're talking to. So we're just going to have to wait and see. He's in no hurry.
No.
If he said, look, I'm not doing anything till after January 1, it could be anybody out there. I still think if he doesn't have a job, it'd be worth placing a call to Kevin Sumlin if he doesn't have a job somewhere and if he wants to coach.
I just get this feeling that you don't want the player to dictate things, but if you look at it, DeCarrion Joyner's last two choices were South Carolina and North Carolina State. That seems to indicate to me that he's enamored with Drinkwitz, because
I love Drinkwitz.
Now
big fan.
Now he put up the Twitter on Drinkwitz
like
he was happy,
whether it has a wits with it or not. You just love a drink,
and then took it down.
Did take it down, yeah.
And so you got the feeling that
maybe that's not going to happen.
He gets the school he wants, and obviously gets a recruiter he was enamored with in Raleigh.
Well, here's the other part of this, and this is something that Will Muschamp said on the radio in Tampa yesterday. He went on WDAE and basically said, Brian McClendon is going to have more than enough of an audition to become the new offensive coordinator. So that makes you think that they are not going to make a decision until after the bowl game on this, which, could give them a little bit of a disadvantage in recruiting because there's at least one less body going out there with that. But in my mind, that's why you give McClendon that little carrot to say, hey, you're basically coaching for the opportunity to get the job. Now, like we said before, don't get aroused by the bowl game stats. The bowl game stats aren't exactly a mirror or a window into what the team will actually look like in a real contest during the regular season. But there's nowhere to go but up is the point that I'm trying to make when it comes to this guy. And as long as you have somebody who has run a competent offense at any level of Division I, Power 5 college football, it's going to be better than what I think you had before.
Well, with McClendon, you got to think that if he's giving him audition, not only because this is an opportunity for him, but you always have to extrapolate from that there was some consternation in some of those meeting rooms and vehement disagreements on game plans. So, okay, well, the other guy's gone. Show me your game plan, what you would have been doing differently. And, of course, looking at the demeanor of your quarterback and see if he plays a more relaxed game under somebody else. So that a lot of factors have to come in and looking at how they conduct practice, everything else, before you really can say to McClendon, they seriously take stock in him maybe being the offensive coordinator.
Speaking of DeCarrion Joyner, of course, he is a finalist for Mr. Football, be announced at halftime tomorrow. DeCarrion Joyner, Channing Tindall, Newberry running back Amir Abrams, who's in this game, Chapman quarterback Colton Bailey, who was supposed to be in this game until he was hurt in the state championship game, and Spartanburg linebacker Connor Shugart. So that's the 5. And my guess is, considering everything, his career, his off-the-field activities, what we hear about him, I think it's probably going to be DeCarrion Joyner winning Mr. Football this year. Over 13,000 career passing yards at Fort Dorchester. And apparently off the field, a very fine young man involved in community activities, very good around the school. As you mentioned earlier, already completed all his schoolwork. Seems to be a yes, sir, no, sir kind of kid, very respectful. And because more goes into this than just your football attribute. So that would be my guess. Though, of course, Tyndall's had a great year at Spring Valley, an Army All-American. Abrams went over 5,000 rushing yards in his career and had about 90 touchdowns. Bailey had a great career and big numbers at Chapman, and Shugart was heart and soul of that Spartanburg defense. I mean, they're all good choices, but you can only pick one. I got a feeling it's going to be Joyner.
He's the, I would say, the smart money choice, but what do we always say about the smart money choice? It doesn't always win. You know what I mean?
True that. Mm-hmm. That's just who I think it's going to be. And I'm seldom wrong on these sort of things. Wow. By the way, I want to thank the Falcons for coming through big time for me last night. Big time. 2-point favorite, win by 3, cover. Oh, yeah. I want to thank the Falcons for making much of America happy.
I'm just making a note of this because I remember when I got something right over the past weekend, you completely slammed me for spiking the football on that. I called you out for being somebody who spikes the football. I'm just bookmarking this moment of our lives to remind you about the fact that anytime you get something right, you must absolutely spike the football on it.
Here's some bad news out of Gainesville for the Gators. Receiver James Robinson career is over because of a heart condition. The Gators announced today that the freshman, who was one of the state's top recruits last February, will not be medically cleared to return. He was evaluated by team doctors and doctors across the country. And so that is the end of that for him. Hate to hear that. 6'4" receiver. Had some off-the-field issues, too. Had a little marijuana thing going on back in August that cost him the season opening game. He was also cited for marijuana on an official visit to Ohio State last January.
It's not good.
So got a little weed thing going on there, but more importantly, he's got some kind of a heart issue, so they're not going to let him play there at Florida. All right, break is coming up. We've had some people waiting. We need to get to those calls. We'll do that when we come back. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. We're here at the beach, and we're in Columbia, and we're across the state, and we're back in a moment. We continue on this Friday edition of Sports Talk. Good to have you with us. 800-956-7266. Brought to you by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork, powered by soy. And while we're talking about agriculture and things like that, the Department of Agriculture reminds you that the state's finest Christmas trees still on sale all across the state at your local South Carolina Department of Agriculture Farmers Market. Celebrate the holidays, make your home beautiful, and support our farmers today. Trees are available until Christmas Eve. Let's go to Ryan in Hartsville. Been with us for a little while. He has paid the price, and he is rewarded with some quality airtime. Ryan, how are you?
Bill, what's going on tonight, man?
Man, just having a big old time.
I wanted to, first of all, say congratulations to Coach Lineberger. We know him very, very well, and nobody more deserving than Coach Lineberger. And
no doubt.
I want to talk about Clemson, Alabama real quick. I keep hearing that Alabama's got a lot of injured players that they're going to be healthy when they play Clemson. I understand that they lost a couple of linebackers, starting linebackers, early in the season, and was curious if they were expecting those guys back, and if you thought, in your opinion, if they do come back, would it be beneficial for Alabama or not, because they just don't have a whole lot of experience because they haven't played much this year? And I'll hang up and listen. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, sir. Anytime you can get somebody back who was a presumed starter for you, that's a bonus, and they've got time to get ready now. You got a month to prepare. So it's time to get ready. One of those who's come back is Christian Miller. And they've missed him at that defensive end position. They miss his speed. They miss his ability to rush the passer. So they got him back. And I don't know, Will, can you update a couple of the others?
Mack Wilson and Terrell Lewis should be near full speed for that game. 3 players who they will not have, Hootie Jones at safety, linebacker Sean Dion, and tight end Miller Forrestal. They will not be available. And the other one, too, that's big is LeBron Ray. He will not be cleared to practice by December 15th. Remember, he broke his foot in the middle of November. They said they hoped he'd be able to return after Christmas to add to that defensive line depth. But the one thing, too, that you have to keep in mind is that while Alabama's getting healthy, so is Clemson. They'll have Trey Lamar back at linebacker, who has not been with them for a couple of weeks because of complications involving his back and a stinger injury. Clemson is going to go into this game basically with the exception of the guys who they've lost for full season injuries like Greg Hugel. They will be at absolute full speed going in and at full depth going into this contest.
And most importantly for Alabama's defense is, Mika Fitzpatrick has been banged up with a hamstring, and he is one of the most versatile safeties because he can play the corner, the slot, all those positions. And this particular year, Corn, Alabama has really had to lean on their linebackers in their secondary because their front four has not been as stout as it has been past years.
There might be a guy or two, Corn, that might get dinged up in bowl practices, and they'll try to take things easy and maybe give a lot more of the younger guys some of the shake coming up here in the latter part of December. But there really isn't a guy who has been a season-long contributor for Clemson that they, at least at this point now, will not. There isn't a guy there they won't have available for that game on January 1st, at least as it stands right now.
All right, well, that's good. That's good. Yeah, you want to see both teams at full strength, and let the best team win, not because the other team is missing somebody due to injuries. Let's just have the best guys available on the field. Looking forward to seeing Christian Miller get his shot. He's waited his time. And he was expected to be a big player at Alabama this year, and he got hurt prior to the season, had some kind of surgery, and now he's healthy again. It's good for him, and looking forward to seeing him do his thing.
It will make our pre-bowl version of the M&M boys all the more special.
Won't it now? 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Speaking of outstanding players, defensive ends, those types, Austin Bryant, Clemson defensive end. Boy, he's had a great year. Last year had to deal with that was 2 years ago. 2 years ago had to deal with the missed some of that time and then got healthy and has really just been an outstanding defensive end for the Tigers last couple of years, and you had a chance to catch up with him, Will.
I did, and he also won himself a nice award yesterday. He was one of 3 Clemson players named as a Walter Camp All-American on the second team. He, along with teammates Mitch Hyatt and Christian Wilkins, recognized by the Walter Camp Award there. And I had a chance before he received that honor to talk with him on Wednesday, not only about Clemson's victory over Miami, the upcoming game against Alabama, and spending New Year's in New Orleans. So what is this period of time like for y'all? It's not as much football, a little bit more academics, but obviously a lot of time to think about the Crimson Tide.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, it's a great time for us to kind of get our legs back up under us. It's been a long season, played a lot of games and still have some more games to go. So this time just used for us, recover, finish strong in the books, and just get dialed in on our opponent.
Does it mean more when you see the Crimson on the other side of the field?
No, not really. Nameless faces opponent each and every week. We prepare the same way for Citadel as we do for Alabama, so there is no drop-off in intensity at practice or how we feel about the opponent. You have to respect each and every opponent because if you don't, this game will humble you quickly.
As far as what it means to play this team for a 3rd consecutive year, obviously the attention around there is obvious. How do you go about channeling your emotions and bringing back, well, what exactly can you take from last year's win and try to bring it into this year?
Just stay resilient. They're a great team. We're a great team. There's going to be ups and there's going to be downs. There's going to be adversity in the game, but just got to keep lining up and keep playing each play. And, we put the work in. We're confident, prepared, and the results will be what they are.
Have you allowed yourself to think about what it might be like if, say, Christian's not next to you next year?
No, I haven't thought about that.
It looked very easy on Saturday. And I don't know if it necessarily felt as easy as it did, but what in your mind made it, I guess, look as easy as it did to beat Miami the way you guys did?
It wasn't easy. I would never say that. Miami's a great team. We just were, really prepared, dialed in on our opponent and focused, and came down to who wanted it more. And, we were able to dominate the game. And that's just, a mindset, a will to win that we had.
How does Alabama look compared to the teams you've seen in the previous 2 years?
They're still the same Alabama. They're going to run the football. They got some great players on both sides of the ball, deep at running back, got a great quarterback, some playmakers at receiver. They have a great defense, great D-line. So it's gonna be a tough game, but just looking forward to playing them on January 1.
Have you guys allowed yourself to think about some of the many food options that come in New Orleans?
Yeah, I think everybody's looking forward to eating a beignet. I don't know if anybody's ever had one or not, so I think that's kind of the talk of the team right now.
Basically, like, you got to eat it. It's like you've had donuts before, right? Mm-hmm. But the problem is, depending on where you go, like the powdered sugar gets everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, hey, whatever. I'll take it. I'm going to try it. Might as well.
As far as also what it means to be playing on New Year's Day, I know it's a big day, despite the fact that, the holidays might come and it might take away from some of that time. It's a good thing to be playing around the holidays and be playing when kind of the world is watching, if you will.
Yeah, it'll be fun. All eyes will be on us. It's a night game in New Orleans. 8:45 doesn't get much better. These are the kind of games, as a kid you dream about playing in. So I think everybody's excited and we'll be ready to play when it comes game time.
There were 10 players who came to our availability on Wednesday, Corn. I think every one of them mentioned eating beignets. Every one of them.
Well, they've got a native Louisianan in Travis Etienne. I think he's from there near New Orleans. So he can certainly show them the rounds and things like that.
The weird thing is David Hood actually asked him about which restaurant to go at, and he mentioned a place that I'd been to for breakfast, and I'm just like, man, that guy knows what he's doing. He's gonna make sure that all the Clemson players eat real good.
Get all that powdered sugar in your system. They need some beignet for your joints.
I'm sure they can't wait to go to the Waffle House on Bourbon Street. I'm sure that's
not going. They're not going to Waffle House, Corn. Come on.
All right, back in a momento.
The guys are always checking email. Questions to talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk from Columbia's Main Street.
Okay, my last chance to remind you about the Touchstone Energy North-South All-Star Game coming up tomorrow. Noon, kickoff will be at 12:30. We hope you're coming down. Hope you have bought your tickets already. If you haven't, you can go online at touchstoneenergybowl.com. Touchstoneenergybowl.com. They're $20, and you can buy them there online, or you can buy your tickets at the gate. Come on out. Be a great atmosphere. A lot of good cooking going on. They have the tent set up with all the various eateries, things like that. I think the weather's going to be passable. It's going to be football-type weather. And I'm telling you, I was up in the press box today. They spent $6 million renovating the home side of Doug Shaw Memorial Stadium and adding other niceties around the place. It is a beautiful high school facility. Best high school press box that I've been in. Can't wait to do a game from there. And individual climate control in each of the suites in the press box. Gotta love that compared to what we're used to at the old stadium. So come on down and join us here at the beach. See some of the best in high school football in South Carolina in action. Over in Conway, Coastal Carolina coach Joe Moglia has named Marvin Sanders his new defensive coordinator. He was with Moglia when he was at Nebraska, and then he was with Moglia when he owned and coached the Omaha Nighthawks. He was defensive coordinator at North Carolina for 3 years and has 23 years of coaching experience. And just saw this. North Carolina Central head coach stepping down to become the offensive coordinator at Rice. This is on Football Scoop. I thought they hired the guy from Stanford.
I think that's the head coach.
That was
head coach.
That's the head coach.
Oh, that's right.
That's the head coach.
Right. Okay, yeah.
He's the head coach.
Him as the head coach.
And
right.
they hired the NC Central guy. He's going to be their OC.
Be the offensive coach. Okay, thank you. That's right. You're correct about that. Very good. Let's go to Tiger Bryan over in Lancaster. Tiger Bryan, what's up?
Hey guys, first of all, I want to wish y'all a Merry Christmas coming up, and thank God for Sports Talk. Man, I hope y'all have another wonderful year next year.
Thank you, sir.
I got 3 questions. Do you actually think Chad Marsh can hire Coach V from Clemson to go to Arkansas?
No shot.
I concur.
The second one, what kind of quarterback situation we're going to have at Clemson next year when
Crowded.
Hot shot comes in from number 1 quarterback Trevor Lawrence.
Crowded. And would you say?
Well, let me just put it to you this way. Let me put it to you this way. Trevor Lawrence might be number 1 in the country. Number 1 at Clemson is Kelly Bryant. And that's the way it will be going into the spring. And then we'll see what happens. Kelly Bryant's going to have every opportunity to hang on to his job.
I asked Hunter Johnson this after the Citadel game. I said, what's that room going to be like next year when the man with the hair comes in and you have Kelly doing his thing and you're wanting to do yours and Zarek wanting to do yours? Hey, it's going to be the same. It's going to be a healthy competition. So you know what? We'll see what happens. But like you said, as of right now, you got Kelly B coming in here being a possible 2018 Heisman candidate. I think they're pretty set at that position.
And it's not bad to have the hair sit for a year.
Of course.
Get his school work acclimated to the campus and everything, and be ready to go that next year. See how it's all done.
Okay, Tiger Bryan, thank you, man.
You had a third question.
Real quick.
Question. Y'all, do you think they're going to get a decent coordinator at South Carolina on offense?
Oh, yeah. He'll get a good coach. They can pay. They're willing to pay. He's going to take his time. He's going to talk to a lot of different people. He'll get a good coach. No question about that.
He needs to.
All right, thank you for your phone call. I'm sorry?
He needs to.
Well, yeah, but he'll get a good coach. He's put a good staff together. Okay,
No.
It didn't work out with Roper,
Well, I think part of the reason why
he will get a good. I would think he will get a good offensive mind. I hope he brings in somebody who has his own offense that he can come in and install and take that offense in whatever direction Muschamp feels it needs to go in.
Take it to this way: you don't fire a guy without thinking that you're not going to be able to attract someone to be here. Like that's the thing. He wouldn't have taken him out if he wasn't confident in his ability that somebody of some sort of stature would want this job.
And I tell you what, whoever gets this job one is health. Number one stays healthy. You have an easier time developing that offense. Those young guys who are in their freshman year, Shi Smith, they'll be a year older. And they'll be ready to go to get acclimated to a new offense.
All right, we were going to play a little Brad Brownell. I think we'll sit on that. But just to surmise, the Tigers back in action tomorrow against Samford, a chance to win another game at home and continue their little streak. They've got Florida coming up. They got a couple of toughies coming up. So we're going to learn. Of course, they already passed one nice test at Ohio State on the road. And they got a couple of other good tests coming up. So we're going to learn a little bit more about this Clemson basketball team over the next 10 days.
And while it won't go down in the stat sheet and in the standings for them, you're starting to see a little bit more about that team that they played in the exhibition season, that Tennessee team. I believe you were telling me before the show, Pro, they're on the verge of being ranked.
They were ranked. I think either in the coaches poll or whatever, around 23, 24. So Tennessee has played a tremendous demanding schedule this year. It'll be one of the things you got to look at is what Florida team shows up against Clemson, because they blew that 18-point lead against Duke, lost. And I think they lost that Florida State game in part because they were still thinking about Duke and maybe still thinking about those two games. They lose to Loyola, and they got to take on Cincinnati tomorrow in the Queen City. So that Florida team could be beat up psychologically, Cohen, by the time they get to Clemson.
Further proof that the wise guys who vote in the SEC preseason poll don't know jack. Tennessee picked 13th out of 14 in the SEC before the season. They're number 24 in the country as it sits right now. So.
Yeah, I mean, you just don't know which. Hey, look at South Carolina last year. They were picked down at the very bottom and rose up and had a great year.
And Rick Barnes basically resurrecting his career there, basically.
Yeah. And another note from Florida, I'm waiting for it to come up here. Some news, of course, we had the news on the Robinson kid being declared out for health reasons. And now the report is Antonio Callaway. His career at Florida is over. Junior from Miami has signed with an agent. He'll forego his senior season to enter the draft. So that's a couple of big shots the Gators are taking in the wide receiving core right there.
Certainly so. Missouri lost another coach today as well. The offensive line coach, is going to go down and join Josh Heupel at UCF. So they're on the look for a new assistant there at Missouri, and they've promoted somebody from within to be the defensive coordinator. So that's at least big for them, at least. And it's weird because so much of this stuff going on with these assistant coaches, it's like everybody takes a turn with them. It's very much it's very much like a little fraternity convention. Everybody kind of goes and takes their shots with one guy. So it's such a small fraternity. So everyone likes to make a big deal about, these guys going one way or going another way. They all end up eventually, everywhere, so to speak.
Dre Massey, the Greenville native who's at Florida, suffered a torn ACL, got an extra year of eligibility. He will be back in Florida next year. He tweeted that out. Did they announce Chris Rumph at Tennessee today? I've seen that hiring done?
I've seen reports about Chris Rumph, but nothing verified.
They don't have anything official on that yet.
Yeah. Well, you can expect to see a stronger Tennessee presence in the state of South Carolina.
One thing that
once he gets there.
One thing that could be good news for South Carolina fans, it's looking like Lance Thompson's going to at least not be included in that Tennessee situation, because it looks like they have all their defensive guys lined up. They were thinking that could possibly be somewhere he ended up, but looks like he could be staying stateside here.
Well, keep an eye on Florida.
True.
See what happens down there with their defensive line. So hopefully for South Carolina's standpoint, Lance will stay put and continue to coach the Gamecocks. That'd be good for them.
Enjoy the game tomorrow.
I shall. You guys have a great weekend. Thanks to everybody for joining us tonight and throughout the week. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you Monday night.